Hey everybody, Alex Newman back again from the Red Pill Expo. We're coming to you live. So much going on here today. It's just like an unbelievable three-ring circus of amazingness. Sitting with me here, we have George Gammon. He is an incredibly interesting person. He's going to be one of the speakers here in just a little bit. He is a retired entrepreneur, a globe trotter, spends most of his time in Latin America and Europe and just flying around the world, and he is an expert on all things economics, especially macroeconomics. His talk here later today is going to be about the Great Reset, which is actually a subject that interests me greatly, and it should interest you greatly because they're coming for you folks. George, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So in a nutshell, give us a snapshot. What is, and I know that's tough, but what is the Great Reset?
It's an agenda that the World Economic Forum has, and when I say the Great Reset, a lot of people say, oh, that's your tinfoil hat or something like that. And actually, those are their words, not mine. They're calling it the Great Reset, and they're calling it the agenda. So what is it? It's just their vision of how the world should be. And they're seeing this COVID issue as an opportunity, quote unquote, to reset the entire economic, the way the globe works economically and potentially from a monetary standpoint. They want to start from scratch, and they want to rebuild the world using their vision for how it should be. That's what they're saying on the surface. Now, I think if you dive a little bit deeper, you start to realize, okay, that there's probably some different things going on here. So just assuming that people will always pursue their own self-interest and the interest of their family, and then also assuming that these people that are in, we'll call them the global elite, are in power, a position of power because they're, like a politician. I always say, how do you become a good politician? You got to be great at lying, and you have to have no moral compass whatsoever. You can't have any ethical standards, and that's how you become a great politician. And so if you have that type of person, they're going to gravitate to power, and when they get power, they're going to want it for all the wrong reasons, right? So if we can assume that a lot of these people fall into that category, and I was really struggling with this too. I was like, well, why do they want to do it? Is there some sort of malicious intent? Is this agenda because they want a lower population of the globe, or all these things, is trying to figure out what makes the most sense. And to me, I always kept coming back to the Cantillon effect, which is basically the people that are closest to the money when new money is created are the biggest beneficiaries, because they're able to take that money and spend it before you see inflation. And it's not just consumer price inflation, it could be asset prices. So if the Fed, as an example, creates another $5 trillion,
which they do now on a regular basis.
Oh, it's daily. Yeah, that's daily. Then it doesn't go, all $5 trillion doesn't just magically fly over the United States with Ben Bernanke's helicopter and just drop on everyone equally. It goes through businesses, it goes through BlackRock, it goes through all of these cronies that have Jerome Powell or whomever on speed dial. They just had dinner with him last night, and they're like, okay, we can do this. It goes through them. So they're kind of taking a spread off of everything, and then they'll go buy assets, let's say. And then who are the sellers when the retail guy comes in and sets up their Robinhood account and gets their stimulus check and starts buying XYZ stock? The people that are selling it to them are these insiders in the global elite that bought it with all this new money that was created because they got it first, right? So that, and it gets more extensive than that, but that's the Cantillon effect. So if you think about this Great Reset, a component of it is something called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I could sit here and explain it all day long and get into the nitty-gritty, but the bottom line is it's going to destroy the economy's ability to create more goods and services. And I would argue that it's going to decrease the amount of goods and services the global economy can produce. Because whether you're in favor of green energy, let's say, or not, if we just cut the cord and go to green energy right now, just realistically, it's not really a debatable issue. The amount of goods and services that are created in the world is going to decrease substantially. So then you've got two components of the equation. You have the money supplier, the amount of currency units that are chasing these goods and services, and the goods and services themselves, right? So if you have a system or an agenda to decrease economic output, they know that the way they're going to fill the gap is through the central banks creating more money, right? Because look at what happened in 2008. Look at what happened in 2020. When the economy goes down, they know, the central bankers, that the developed world, their economy is built on three things. It's really asset prices, and I would argue asset bubbles, debt, and confidence, right? So they can't allow those assets to go down. So if you're Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum, you're like, wait a minute here, let me put two and two together. If I can collapse the economy, then the central bankers are going to come in and try to fix the economy by printing all this money. And then I look at the Cantillon effect. If I'm closest to that money being printed, then I'm going to get rich as a result of destroying the banking system through negative interest rates or destroying the economy. And I think that's what the Great Reset is all about. That's what makes the most sense to me.
So in the last 30 seconds we have left now, how do we combat this? I know you're going to be talking about this later today, but suppose we don't want to give up our liberties and have our standard of living reduced and live under this crazy system they're engineering. What do we do to stop it?
The average person, I think they've got to own precious metals. And I'm not someone that says you got to own 100% of your portfolio or have it in precious metals. Not at all. But you've got to start thinking about that. And I think the other thing the average person can do, if you got a mortgage, make sure you got a 30-year fixed rate debt or 30-year fixed rate mortgage, because you're going to be able to profit and increase your purchasing power by what is most likely coming down the pipeline if they're able to execute on this agenda. Because from a macro standpoint, it means stagflation. It means the 1970s. It means structurally high unemployment, lower goods and services, higher prices, more money printing. So if you've got a $100,000 mortgage right now, if we have enough inflation, taking it to an extreme, in 10 years you could pay off that mortgage, if it's fixed rate, with the same amount of money that it takes you to buy a loaf of bread. So but your house, theoretically, will still buy the same amount of goods and services that it did in 10 years that it did when you bought it. So that would be a transfer of wealth from the lending institution to the borrower, you. So I think having gold and having a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is the easiest thing that normal people can do to prepare. And then just get educated. I always say, you got to be prepared or you're going to be a victim.
Excellent. Folks, that's what we're about here at the Red Pill. We need to get educated. That's what we're here doing. We're educating the people. Help us get this information out. Get educated yourself. Help share this with your friends, with your family. George, thank you very much for being with us. Thanks for what you're doing. Looking forward to your speech. And thanks again, folks. We'll be back live from the Red Pill Expo very soon.